Hello and welcome to Spirit Talk. This week we have a dentist appointment. I was contacted by Dr. Peter Schaefer, dentistry out of Sandusky, Ohio. Dr. Peter and his staff have been experiencing some paranormal or strange, certainly circumstances. In one incident, Dr. Peter told me that he was working on a patient. His dental assistant and another dental assistant was in the room at the time. He was talking to them, and a stream of water appeared falling from the ceiling slowly towards the floor. And all of them saw it, including the patient, and it just went a slow line. They watched it, and it hit the floor, but it disappeared. There was no wet marks. So there were several witnesses in this instance. Also, Dr. Peter and his children have seen, especially his daughter, an orange ball or orb that they have seen in the upstairs apartment that would float or move through the room. So based on these strange occurrences, I certainly was eager to do the investigation. And it turns out with Randy, as in the previous two investigations, en route to Sandusky, Randy again started getting impressions. I have no doubt that Randy is a clairsentient, and amazingly, a lot of the things that Randy have talked about will later be verified by Dr. Peter. But I'm going to let Randy explain or talk about what transpired and what he was seeing.
Prior to the investigation we did at the dentist office in Sandusky, David had told me very little about this. I only knew that it was in Sandusky and that it was a dentist office. On the drive there, I started to pick up on a few different things. One in particular was the basement stairway. I have no idea why that came to me, but I was seeing a pretty steep stairway going down with a low ceiling, and that once down there it was kind of a confined area with low ceilings. Also, I started to get a pain in my face, like on the right side of my face, the cheekbone area and over my eye. It was an uncomfortable feeling, pretty much affecting my vision. I started to have blurry vision in that eye. It was pretty unusual pain. Also, I was kind of picking up a little bit of a dizziness. Once we arrived up there in Sandusky, we pulled into the parking lot behind the building. Nothing to the outside of the building that we were investigating came to me, but oddly enough, the building right next door was a tall 4-story old apartment building. Something right away drew me to that. Something bad had happened. I had the sensation that someone had fallen from the top floor. I had the feeling of falling, sort of like you would feel on a roller coaster ride. But then there was a lot of pain in the back of my head. So I had the feeling that something bad had happened there. Once we went inside the building, that we were there to investigate, talking to the dentist, we asked him the question about the building next door. Usually when things come to me, I get this anxious feeling that I have to question the property owners right away. When I asked the doctor about the building next door, He had responded with that a lot of bad things had happened there. It was just a bad building in general. But he did tell us about a young boy falling from the top stairs all the way to the bottom. He fell on a car that was in the parking lot. He said there was blood everywhere. The boy had pretty bad head injuries. He didn't pass away. He's still alive to this day. But the only thing I can say is that that tragedy had stuck with that building, and I was feeling that that boy had fallen from that balcony. Once we went inside the doctor's office, we started to tour around the building. I immediately, once we saw the basement stairs, picked up on it right away. That was exactly the stairway the way I had seen it. It was a low ceiling in the basement. I asked the doctor about a confined area that had rock around the outer edge and a dirt floor area, sort of like a crawl space, I guess you'd call it, and that it was located in the front left corner of the house. He wasn't sure about that and told me he didn't think there was one. Later on in our investigation, one of our members, Tuck, had his construction flashlights, and he was able to climb back and see the area that I was talking about. I also had climbed back a little bit to see it, but instantly got the feeling of confinement and uncomfortable feeling to get out of there. I felt as though it was an area that I would be trapped in if I went in there, or that someone had been trapped in. So we left the area and continued our tour around the building. Once we entered the area on the doctor's side of the building where he had his exam rooms, there was an area around exam room 5 that right away I got a very uncomfortable feeling. I started to get dizzy, nauseous, almost like a flash came over me to get out of that area. That I almost felt as though I was being pushed out of that area, like I wasn't wanted there. And if that feeling comes over me, right away I want air. I just want to get out of the building and get some fresh air. I went outside, regrouped, came back in, we continued our tour. I started to ask the doctor again about anything that might have happened in that building that was bad or tragic, and he said there had been 2 suicides in that building. One was by a drug overdose, and the other was with a gunshot, that the person had shot themselves in the head and killed herself. I didn't really know if some of the nauseousness or dizziness I was feeling was from maybe the drug overdose person, but I did have a very strong feeling about the gunshot. When we toured around the house, we went to a front apartment that was the main part of the house originally. That's where the entry door came in, and right inside the entry door is a staircase that went upstairs. I went around on the tour with 2 of our team members, Chuck and Adam, and they were filming and talking about that area. When we got in that part of the house, I almost felt as though I was reliving a situation or something that had happened in that area. I tend to get a certain feeling that I needed to be by the stairway or near the front door. So I went to the stairway and sat down. It was after sitting down and kind of thinking a little bit, I started to almost see in my head the situation. The front door was directly in front of the staircase, and I had the feeling that whoever had killed themselves there was either sitting on or standing in front of that stairway, waiting for someone to come home or come in that door. In my head, I could see that door opening. I couldn't see who was coming in, but I did see the door open. And I, as the person on the stairway, I felt myself taking the gun in my right hand and putting it up to my head and firing. That would explain the feeling I was having in the right part of my face, around the cheekbone area. At that moment, I felt as though I had just been hit or blasted in the face and felt like I just was either thrown backwards by the explosion or the feeling of just being hit in the head and knocked backwards. We don't really know the details of that situation. Maybe we can turn up more in the investigation. The doctor really didn't give us a lot of detail or had a lot of detail on that situation, but in my head it felt pretty clear that something like that is what had happened there. I guess only our future investigation on that property will either turn it up or not, but the feeling was pretty realistic to me.
It's becoming clear that Randy is clairsentient. He was able to pick up on quite a bit through this investigation. When we sat down upstairs to do our first EVP session, Randy needed to step outside and to get away for a while, which we certainly understood. But we began an EVP session using the radio scan method, as you will see here. And the very first EVP we get sounds like someone saying, "Don't make me go." Now again, Randy is outside. He is not upstairs with us. And this next EVP says, "David, where did Randy go? I hope maybe he'll come back." Please. What is there something important that you want to say to me? Give me a message, please. What is there something important that you want to say to me? Okay, now here's an excellent example. Next two EVPs I'm going to play for you. Why I dispute with, or have a dispute with these critics who say that EVPs are nothing more than random cell phone intercepted messages or random or errant radio signals or broadcasts. I ask a direct question. I said, "How many of you are here?" And I get a direct answer. It says, "Not that many. Some are gone." How many of you are here? How many of you are here? Okay, and another direct response EVP. I ask, "Are there any children in this location?" And I get a direct response that says, "I don't have any of them. I suppose the spirit was trying to tell me that they did not have any children." Are there children in this location? Are there children in this location? Now, in the next EVP, while I didn't get a what you call direct response to my question, I ask who is in charge. They come through, we get a message that comes through that says, "None of us want to go." Now, I've encountered this before at other investigations where at first entities or spirits, in some cases, feel threatened by me that we're going to make them leave. I think this is a case of that because they come very clear and say, "None of us want to go." Who is the dominant spirit here? Who's in charge? Who is the dominant spirit here? Who's in charge? Now, in the last two investigations, something also happened to Randy as far as what he was sensing. In Shaylorsville, he sensed the number 10 over and over again. We did not bring that up in the presentation that we made because we couldn't find anything that really we could think that it meant or that we could possibly correlate that number to. The same thing happened here at Dr. Peter Schaefer's building. Randy kept getting a number 7 that was in, I guess, his head, or he kept coming up with this number 7. Now, I have a theory, and this next EVP that I'm going to play for you, while there's no video to back it up, this was off of a digital recorder, it could be that the number that he's getting is the number of spirits or souls that are there. I ask in this next EVP, you will hear me ask how many females or women spirits are in this home, and very quickly you hear a male voice say 6, but then after that you hear and one more. 6 and 1 makes 7. So perhaps the number that he was picking up 7, just perhaps, it may be the number of spirits that are dwelling at this residence or place of business. All right, how many women, females, are in spirit form in this dwelling? All right, how many women, females, are in spirit form in this dwelling? The next two scenes that you're going to see, the first one, we are on Dr. Peter's father's side of the building. Now, Dr. Peter's dad has not practiced in more than 5 years. We did not get virtually no EMF readings. There was no detection, very slight, and the only readings that we got were actually on the headrest of the dentist chairs, a very slight like spike where people would rest their heads while the dentist was working on them. But overall, in that section of the building, there was virtually no EMF detection. But when we walk to the other side, the side of the building that is an active dentistry at this time, the meter goes way up to 3 and sometimes more and holds solid. Now, interestingly, we then asked Dr. Peter to kill the power to the building, which he killed everything from the breakers and even went outside and shut down the backup generator. We wanted to eliminate the possibility that these EMFs, that detection that we were picking up, was the electricity running through the lines. By killing all the power, there should have at least been a drop in the EMF reading, and they held strong, as you will see here. All right, right now what we're doing is we're doing a basic EMF sweep of the building. Now, interestingly, we're getting a constant 3 on that EMF detector, except for on this side of the building. Now, Dr. Peter's dad, who used to practice, this was his side, but he has not practiced now in 5 years. And I mean, strangely, the EMF meter is now dropping to what are more normal levels of a normal home of anything that we previously investigated. Now, when we walk over to the other side, you're going to see that the EMF meter is going to fluctuate and jump up to a 3. Peter has just shut down the entire electrical system throughout the building, including backup generators. Now, interestingly, as you can see, as we enter into the rooms, we're still getting a tremendous EMF reading. So shutting off the entire power system had no effect on the EMF reading on this instrument. So that's pretty amazing that every ounce of power to this building has been shut down, which therefore eliminates the natural cause of electricity as the cause for the EMF spike. We're still getting that energy reading. Besides the fluctuating EMF detection that we were showing on the meter, did you notice something else? Now, let me make something clear here. Me nor my team put a whole lot of faith in orbs. So many orbs that people talk about, oh, we captured orbs. In many cases, we believe that they're nothing more than dust particles. However, there are certain signatures of orbs that I think may be genuine spirit orbs or energy forms. We actually, in this that you just watched, there are several orbs, and I'm going to play them for you. How I can tell, or what we believe we can tell is a genuine spirit orbs is dust does not pulsate or blink. If you look at the contrast of my shirt, you will see pulsating lights. And in one example that you will see here captured, you will see a streaking, fast-moving orb that goes from the ceiling towards the ground. Dust does not travel at this speed. So I believe these are spirit orbs. Look closely against the black contrast of my shirt. You will see white lights flickering and pulsating. Now if you look to the right, you will see a white ball pulsate move out of the way. Now in slow motion, I'm going to use iMovie to isolate the upper corner. Watch the white streak coming down. Now in regards to the EMF readings, Dr. Peter feels that there may be a portal there because of the incredibly high energy. And if you take the EMF detector in a certain spot in one of the examination rooms, it goes up to 5. And if you follow that spot down into the basement, it again goes up to 5. However, as you're going to see in the clip here that I'm going to show you, in that section of the basement there's massive electrical wires and aluminum insulated wrap piping everywhere, as well as pipes of water running through. And we know scientifically that water carries EMF fields. So even though the power was cut off, could they have retained that much energy? I don't know. I don't believe so, because it was significant. And then on the other hand, with the power off and no lights, we're catching energy orbs. So I can't discount Dr. Peters' feelings of a vortex. But based again, what you're going to see here where he feels the vortex is, there's also well-known items, many electric wires, foil, pipelines that contribute to high EMF readings.
And it starts to, so maybe it's even bigger than a baseball, but it's consistent. It's only come down lower though in the last week.
Interesting.
And this is where it's at.
Now, Charles and Tucker got 2 EVPs when they were in the basement. The first one I'm going to play for you is greatly magnified, so the bass tones are really heavy. But if you listen to the higher pitch, you hear someone say, "What a bunch of dummies." And that's a higher pitch over the rumbling of the bass in this recording. The next EVP after that is even more impressive. In fact, it's Class A EVP. Now, as I mentioned, the next EVP I'm going to play for you is definitely a Class A EVP, very well defined. It does fade off into a whisper, the second portion of it. But in the beginning of this recording, you're going to hear Tucker talk about the older part of the basement. He says, the older part seems to be over here, and Charles says, "Oh, yeah," but then after that, you have a very well-defined EVP that says, "Yes, and we're here." And then a whisper that says, "And he raped her."
Well, actually, the oldest part may be up here.
Oh, yeah.
And then this, and then where we are. And then this, and then where we are.
And finally, I'm going to show you again what could be orbs or could be dust particles. But going back to that front room where Randy had this strong impression of suicide and a gun being held to the head, in that room by the stairs, Adam was taking pictures and just shooting pictures for evidence. And upon reviewing them, look above Randy's head. There appear to be 2 orbs, dust particles, I don't know. Unfortunately, we were running out of time, but we can certainly say that the investigation at Dr. Peters' office and residence was certainly interesting, to say the least. We received several EVPs, direct response EVPs. We also were able to capture what appears to be energy orbs or spirit orbs. And the one thing, again, is these spirit beings at this location do seem to be intelligent. It's not residual, they are communicating. As well as Randy being able to pick up on events that may have occurred in this home. So we're going to leave you with this presentation with our offer again. If you live on the North Coast area of Ohio, you're experiencing strange phenomena in your home and you would like to have an investigation, we do not charge for this service. We feel it's an honor and a privilege to be able to do this. You can contact us at evpmedium@gmail.com. That's evpmedium@gmail.com. Until our next episode, live life with love and joy.